Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our Pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape,
vinyl tape, carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneurial Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. Man, I am so excited today. Man, I've got my dear friend, Rick Foreman, on the phone. Brother Rick, how are you, sir?
Very good, Kevin. So dreary out there, but good day.
Absolutely. So listen, in full disclosure, before we get started, I want to let folks know that Rick is, he is, I guess, a former sponsor of the Minding Our Business program when we had our summer camps. And so if it wasn't for Rick, man, for like 3 years, we would not have had summer camp. So Rick, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I mean, it's such a great program that you put together with the entrepreneurs in the Trenton area. That's fantastic. The young kids that are involved.
Absolutely. So let's start from the beginning, Rick. You know, first of all, my mother loves you. I know when we did our very first program, I brought my mother out because we were having, I guess, just a question and answer kind of period. And Mom could not believe that you were coming to town because she first saw you when you were doing a show called
Undercover Boss.
Undercover Boss. So she was so excited to meet you and to finally see you. So let's start with that. How did you become a part of the Undercover Boss series?
Well, I mean, with all the growth of the retail and everything in the area, in the Philadelphia market, I got a call out of the blue. It was from an agent out of, I guess, Hollywood, Los Angeles.
Okay.
And she was a scouting agent, and she used to be a customer of Forman Mills as a kid.
Okay.
I feel old, she was like as a little kid down the shore in our Pleasantville location.
Yes.
So she remembers our shout. She remembers our crazy advertising.
Yes.
And she thought that we would be a good candidate, or I would be a good candidate, to be on the show. And so they flew out and did like a screen test.
Yes.
It was weird. Like, what am I doing here? Because I need to sell some T-shirts, and now I'm like, being interviewed with a green screen. So, But it was an interesting thing. So,
because one of the things I enjoyed about the show was at the end, you were, I guess the premise of the show is you go undercover in your own store. And while you're undercover, folks that perform different responsibilities or different roles in the show or at your store during the show time, they are showing you around as if you're going to be a new employee. Now you're telling me, Rick, no one knew that was you?
No, and it never came out that they did. So,
wow.
I mean, I had a few managers say that they recognized my voice when I went on the loudspeaker in one of the scenes.
Yeah.
So they just kept that manager away.
Got you.
You know, they admitted to her, and then she was in on it.
Got you.
And that was in one of our Chicago stores. But I mean, Kevin, the thing that I couldn't believe, it's a real show. I mean, it really is people think it's fake, and they did tell the people that we were supposed to tell the people at a meeting that we were training another executive.
Yes.
That was going to come in, and we picked the people to train them for another reality show.
Got you.
So we had the people fooled.
Wow. And so once the show was over, were you able to take some of the comments and concerns and take that back and implement it into your stores?
Yeah, it was a real eye opener, believe it or not. I mean, I was shocked, you know. So just some of the things in the stores, like, you know, having locks on the bathroom, like we're sort of disrespecting the customer, you know, like why is that door, you know, why can't you get into the restroom, you know, little things like that.
Got you.
You know, like when you go in McDonald's and you have to, you know, they have to give you the key.
Yes.
So like, even though there could be theft, you still have to respect the people in the neighborhood, you know. That was one thing I learned. There was a lot of lessons that the people really that come to work really want to do a good job. I think that represents America, that most people want to work hard. They want to put in a great day.
Yes. And
the company doesn't always have the right atmosphere for that, you know? So
Understood. Now, what were some of the things that you value in an employee?
Just sort of the life, you know, everybody has their own problems or their own, you know, family situations, and somebody that is really going to have perseverance. They're going to show up. They're going to do a great job, and maybe they're going to get recognized, you know, that they can move on if they do a really good job. So I think that perseverance, you know, and we saw, you know, one of the things, just to mention, one of the gentlemen, the guy that trained me actually in one of the stores, Curtis Deal.
Yes. And
believe it or not, he's still with me to this day. I just flew him in from Florida.
Wow. Okay.
But he comes, you know, he helps me out with different things. But so we bought him the house, and we kept saying Curtis, and I promoted him to be like our HR manager, you know, and this guy was a homeless guy with a great personality, great potential. So one day I said, everybody's asking him, Curtis, where's the house? What's the story? Did you buy the house yet? Because I gave him the money.
Yes.
And he shows me a picture of a house. And I said, wait a second, there's palm trees in the background. What are you doing? And so him and his wife, they ran away to Sarasota, Florida. And I wasn't upset about it, because like, I was like, all right, I'm not going to mess his dreams up, you know?
Yeah.
But he sort of shocked me, you know?
So you thought.
But now I fly him in every once in a while.
So you thought he was going to buy a local house. He bought a house down in Florida.
Yeah, can you blame him, right? I mean,
I don't blame him at all. And obviously you didn't
the weather.
You didn't place any restrictions on him.
No, I mean, some people said, "Oh, that's terrible. Why did he?" I said, "No, that's not a problem. Well, that's great. That's his dream, and his wife has a great job where she can get transferred, and you know, so it worked out."
Wow! And so I guess the next question is: once he bought the house in Sarasota, did he continue to work for the Forman Mills in the Florida area?
No, he was working for a little bit, but this is pre-COVID.
Understood.
And I didn't know anything about Zoom or, you know.
Yes.
So he got a job down there, and his wife has a job. And he's got a nice house with a little pool in the back. And, he's very successful, and it's a good story. I keep in touch with most of the people that were on that show.
Wow.
So it was a great experience.
Now you said a buzzword. You said pre-COVID, but I also want to thank you, man, because prior to COVID. In the pandemic, you started using a word called pivot, and I understood pivot, but it really didn't take a firm effect of me until the pandemic hit, And so again, I'm also saying thank you because I need to credit the Entrepreneurial podcast to two gentlemen. One would be you, because I had to pivot, and the other one would be the current sponsor is Ed Miller from Pro Tapes, who is sponsoring the this series and also been a sponsor for the Entrepreneurial program as well. So I mean, I understood what the word pivot, but I could not put it into actualization until I met you, because you would always talk about pivot. What are you going to do? Pivot. And it really didn't take hold until we had to go through this pandemic. So thank you, Brother Rick. I appreciate that. So now let's start.
Hey, you're welcome.
Let's start from the beginning. How did you become this successful entrepreneur? When did it all begin?
Well, I think you're born to a certain extent.
Yes.
That you're an entrepreneur. I mean, I think you can be developed.
Yes.
Or some people have to find that magic if they want to.
Yes.
Because there's no negative. You could work for a company and be an entrepreneur. But
yes.
But as a little kid, I was always that kid that would walk, go around the neighborhood selling my mom's, like, I don't know, rugs or, the milk, make milkshakes outdoors, or
yes.
the lemonade stand. I once had a horror show in my basement. I would charge the kids to come in with a whole story. So I love the Little Rascals.
Yes.
the black it was in black and white, like, because it was from like the 20s or something. But
yes.
There's reruns.
Yes.
And how entrepreneurial they were.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so that's where it all started. I always was looking and asking, what can I invent? What can I? I was a pain in the ass kid, I think.
Yes.
With my parents, like, what can I do today? And so my friend and I had a lawn service business, like a landscape business, in high school.
Yes.
As a young kid, like 13, 14 years old, we would mow lawns, and he got mononucleosis or something. But the doctor said, well, he could still work, but he can't do the physical work. So somebody told us about the flea markets.
Yes.
And we checked it out in Columbus, Englishtown,
yes.
Cowtown. And then I started getting into commerce that way.
Okay.
So
when
that was the start.
When you say you started getting into commerce, that meant you started selling at the flea market. What was the first thing that you started selling there?
Yeah, and that's one of the lessons too, that we didn't know what we were doing. My friend and I, his father had a little store in Philadelphia.
Yes.
So he had like some hats and some water guns and like all this like little stuff, little tchotchke stuff, that
yes.
we took out. And at that time, I think I was 15, and my partner, Ronnie Teblum, he was my neighbor up the block. He could drive. He was a couple years older than me. So we would get in his little Maverick Grabber, I remember, and we would stuff the car with like all this stuff, like hats and T-shirts and water guns. And we bought these. I remember I put $80 into the business, both of us.
Okay.
And my dad at the time, I had asked him for the money because I was like this lazy kid, I guess, that didn't have any money, and he threw $80 in ones at me. I remember I was like picking it up off the floor, crying. My mom
yes.
was there. My dad left the room, but he just like threw the money. And I remember that was the $80 investment that I bought these water guns and these T-shirts with, and Ronnie did the same thing.
Wow.
And so it's an evolution. Like sometimes you don't know, even the real estate at the flea market, like we were out in the boondocks, like they put us out and we probably did $100 or $50 the first day, and we were all depressed. But eventually we figured out how to get a better location.
Okay.
So the flea market, it's like it really has all those elements: location.
Yes.
Eventually, the product.
Yes. Okay. So you're at the market fair. You're selling these T-shirts. You do well the first day. A light bulb goes off, and you say, "Wow, I've got to re-up. I've got to go to the wholesale district." When did that part start? Like when the real big money started coming? Like when you're having like $1,000 days.
Well, what happened is, and it's another lesson too, that you have to network.
Yes.
You have to be likable, I guess, or, you have to really be out there, because we didn't know anything about credit. We didn't know anything about hangers or tickets or anything,
Okay.
So we went into Philadelphia. 3rd and Market Street used to be like a wholesale district.
Yes, I remember.
And, now it's like Old City with all real, the good restaurants and expensive and everything.
Yes.
But so we went to this one guy. Remember his name? Bernie Burdon. It was like Burdon Mills. And maybe that's where I got the Forman Mills from. But so it was like Burdon Mills, just like a little outlet on Market Street.
Okay.
And he had some motorcycle T-shirts like Triumph, BMX, like these different names. And he wanted 50 cents a piece for first quality printed tees.
Okay.
So that was magic. Like, we put them out at $3 for $5, and we blew out of them. And then we came back. We had to pay him cash.
Yes.
He came back the next week, the next day, really, and he gave us 100 dozen on consignment.
Wow.
Like, that was our first taste of credit.
Yes.
So I really thank this guy. I don't even know if he's alive, but I doubt it. But so we went out to the market, we blew him out, and then we said, hey, Ronnie, it's R&R T-shirts, Ronnie and Ricky.
Yes.
What are we going to do? We don't have any T-shirts. And we lucked into a guy in, another lucky thing was in Wildwood, New Jersey.
Okay.
There was a guy that was going out of business, and we bought his whole store out, the decal machines, T-shirts. So we had all our neighbors printing 24 hours in Ronnie's basement. Smoke was all over the place, decal machines.
Yes.
And then we were screen printing. And then we ended up buying from Fruit of the Loom. We became like a really big customer of buying like a regular T-shirt. So it was an evolution, like one thing led to another.
But I'm saying, Rick, now when you bought the irregular T-shirts from Fruit of the Looms, did you know that at that time? Did someone tell you that you could get a better deal, a better price? Did you figure that out, or they told you, or you had someone to guide you along? I mean, I guess the next question was, at that point, who was serving as your mentor, if you had one? Was there anyone?
Well, I think by networking out there,
Gotcha.
By going out to the vendors like Bernie Burdon and then these other people,
Gotcha.
We were very humble and ask a lot of questions.
Yes.
And, hey, can you do me a favor, Bernie? I ran out of these T-shirts. Do you know anybody?
Gotcha.
So somebody would pick up the phone and say, hey, I got these 2 nice young guys right here. They pay me good.
Yes.
Can you do them a favor?
Got you.
And then one thing led to another. So that's like a real lesson that you have to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yes.
You have to be humble.
Yes.
And you got to ask 1,000 questions out there.
Yes.
And somebody's going to help you. You're going to find little angels along the way.
Okay.
Because, and so that's what happened. People ended up helping us. We would get a connection.
Yes.
And I never want to go into a place now where I'm cold calling. Like, I always try to get a name from somebody.
Yes.
Like, hey, Kevin told me I should be calling you or something,
yes.
Then we got into Hanes.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
So it was an evolution that,
And I can see the value, and I can see the difference that makes when you know someone, particularly someone who's a decision maker, that you mention their name, that so-and-so who you think has credibility can say, so-and-so told me to call you. So when you walk into the meeting, you walk into the room, it's not actually cold, but you've already begun to begin the relationship already. Okay. All right. So now
That's right. You have to be inquisitive, and you have to knock on doors, and you're going to create your own luck. I mean, if you really put yourself out there and network, and you have to have perseverance.
Yes.
What is that saying? Like, some days you eat the bear and some day the bear eats you.
Yeah.
Or some people say, I never had 2 bad days in a row. I have had 1 bad day,
Yes.
So, but the next day you have to just keep plugging away.
Yes.
So, and then we did some volume. You asked about volume.
Yes.
I remember one day we did $610. And my friend at that time, WIP 610,
yes.
it was like a radio station. And my friend just said, 610 WIP. I said, oh, wow, we did 600. Oh my God. It's like the greatest day.
Yeah. So now I teach entrepreneurship, Rick. So I got to ask this question. At any point, did you guys think about, let's put together a journal or a business plan? Let's kind of capture what we're doing.
Well, sort of. I mean, we were very informal. I mean, we used to use like a checkbook system that was like the manual, one right system or whatever. But so I don't think there was a lot of analysis paralysis. I think we had a feeling. See, at the flea market, it's where the rubber hits the road.
Yes.
That customer, that's why I love it. To this day, I think people should test their products out there.
Yes.
Because in a cheap way.
Yes.
Because the customer is right in front of your face.
Yes.
And we would listen to the feedback.
Got you.
So they either loved it or they hated it right in front of our face.
Yes.
So we didn't need like that formal education. We were on the street.
Yes.
The cookies are either good or they're terrible, like Famous Amos,
yes. And you're going to know immediately with the feedback. I like that. I like that. So now, so you have your first big day, $610. Where do you guys go from there?
So we were still in high school at that time, and Ronnie was getting ready to graduate. I was still in Cherry Hill West in New Jersey, and he really had it at that point. His parents were like, "You guys are, what are you doing with this business? And you're gonna get lousy grades, and you're not gonna go to college." So he left the business, and that was again an evolution where I had to learn about buying him out.
Okay.
Now we had a negotiation.
Yes.
So I think for $20,000, and that was a lot of money. But I bought him out of the business. And he ended up moving to Florida and was in a marketing business out there. And I ended up continuing with the flea market and expanded. I had like 4 stands going. I had all my friends working for me. I don't know if they were my friends after they started working for me, but anyway. But Rick, I was a tough boss.
But Rick, notice what you said. You had amassed $20,000 in order to buy him out. So the business was really doing well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. We were doing this like 4 days a week. At that point, I started going to Rutgers, Camden.
Yes.
And I was commuting. So I was taking a few courses there in business, and the business was doing well. I mean, I was in the back of one of my classes, and I believe it or not, Kevin, I brought an admin into the class.
Okay.
Because I didn't have time. I was buying like 300 dozen worth of T-shirts, and this teacher is talking about Frederick March and the revolution, the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
And I'm in the back with an admin figuring out like how many dozen tees I'm going to buy.
Yeah.
And the teacher caught me because she said, "What are you doing back there, Mr. Foreman?" Like I didn't even know she knew my name.
Yeah.
But and I knew that day I had to get out of there. I was done, and I now I'm a dropout of Rutgers Camden.
Yes.
And I'm doing the flea markets full time. So,
wow.
And it was a big business at that point. I had a truck, and I'm picking up merchandise and working 7 days a week, and but it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of good times also.
Wow. So you drop out, and when does the whole notion of let me do a solid brick and mortar, when does that come about, Rick?
So I guess I was around 21, and I was doing the flea markets for, since I was a kid, like 6 years.
Yes.
Off and on, and then full time. And started getting a little tired of it. Now, one of my competitors, and that's another story, but called Tough Industries, TUFF.
Yes.
And it was Bernie Weiss and his son Eddie, and they were like my enemies.
Okay.
I remember my mom thought I was crazy. I put like a bullseye in my room.
Yeah.
Because I will get Tough Industries, because these guys were like they were like the kings of the flea market.
Okay.
And like they threatened me, but that made my juices flow.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When you have that kind of competition. So they opened up a store in Northeast Philadelphia called Tough Outlet.
Okay.
And they did really well. so I sort of checked them out, and I
Yes.
said, you know what, I got to do this. I could do better than that.
Wow.
And I went around. My friend Ronnie, who had left the business,
Yes.
his father told me about Frankfurt Avenue in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize was like, you know, a tough neighborhood. There was a lot of drugs. It was like the old Kensington, Frankfurt area.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
And I drove through that with like this real estate guy, and I saw this burned out alley on Frankfurt Avenue in the
Yes.
middle of the district where it was busy.
Yes.
But it was like a burned out lot. And I said, this is it. And everybody thought I was nuts. My dad, the real estate agent, they actually made me cry. It was like, how are you going to, you know, but I, from my flea market background,
Yes.
I blacktopped the outdoor lot, and there was an indoor area too.
Yes.
And we made a unique 3-day flea market of clothing outside
Wow.
on Frankfurt Avenue.
Wow.
And that was the first location.
Wow.
So,
wow. So I guess the other lesson is that if you believe in yourself, no matter what, that's all that matters.
yes.
Wow.
I mean, it's funny you say it because I just saw something that Elon Musk had said recently, like where you're basically alone. Like, don't depend on your friends, don't
Yes.
depend on your family. It was a little bit negative,
Yes.
but it hit a nerve where you really have to realize that you're alone and you're toiling into the evening, or you're
Yes.
not sleeping, and you're, you know, and that's okay.
Yes.
You know, when you get successful, you'll get the accolades or whatever you're looking for, but you're really alone in life in a way, and you
Yes.
have to accept that you may not have believers,
Yes.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself, and
Yes.
you're going to have highs and lows.
Yes.
But
And
yeah, when I showed them this real estate and I said I signed the lease with Oscar Zatz,
Yes.
I remember this guy, you know, nobody could believe I took it, and I got a really cheap deal there, like $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And when we advertised, because one of my vendors, like Bernie Burdon,
Yes.
with the mills, so I called it Forman Knitting Mills.
Foreman Mills.
And I took
Yes.
this Forman Knitting Mills, yeah,
Yes.
because I wanted them to think that there's this major factory in Philadelphia.
Yes. Okay.
At that time, there was like Robert Bruce and all these. There was some factories in Northeast Philadelphia still,
Okay.
you know, like 30 years ago.
Yes.
So when they saw the ad come out in the paper, and I remember I drew it up on a big poster board, and I walked into the Northeast Time with my little basketball shorts on and said, I want to advertise, and here's my ad. And the lady just laughed, but
Okay.
they liked me. They put the ad in. They gave me a deal, and
Yes.
and the ad was larger than life. It was Forman Knitting Mills opens its 80,000, and we only had like 2,000 square feet, but
Yeah.
80,000 square foot warehouse to the public, you know, and the place was mobbed.
Wow.
It was like Harrods department store, and nothing was ticketed. There was no register.
Okay.
It was just little Ricky with my Pepsi Cola money belt
wow.
and cash coming in. So, and I was like spaced out. I was the only cashier, you know.
Yeah. Wow. That's
I wouldn't let my friends handle the money.
very true.
So-
Don't let your friends handle the money. And you're still purchasing the irregular T-shirts still at that time.
Yeah, we were expanding a little bit.
Okay.
Like I had T-shirts. Then I met somebody at Hanes Knitwear
Yes.
that I was getting beautiful, like irregular sweatshirts that all
Yes.
seemed to be like first quality.
Okay.
And again, they liked me. You know, we went down to the mill. You know, I would drive. One of my friends drove like all night long to like,
Yes.
you know, Georgia and you know, different areas down south. And we
Yes.
started bringing back like sweatshirts. Because at that time they were making them in America,
Yeah.
you know, United States. So
That's
we expanded the T-shirt. And that's another lesson. Focus in on some category that you're good at.
yes.
Like we didn't try to bring in dresses or we didn't bring in hard goods. It was T-shirts and sweatshirts.
Yes.
So we were the king of one product, basically.
Wow.
If you have limited money, make the best donuts out there, make the best French fries,
yes,
make the best sweatshirts,
Okay. So you're
and that's what we did.
You're doing that now. At what point does the other light bulb go off and says, okay, I need another store and I need to buy truckloads now?
Well, I took it pretty slow. I didn't really know anything still, but thank God we made cash flow in the very beginning.
Okay.
Because I take that for granted now. Now that I'm older and I'm starting another company, but that's another story. And I'm actually losing money in the beginning because it's like a real startup. I look back on that and say, oh my God, that was a major risk, because when you have limited money and you're investing in that first operation,
yes,
you really have to come out and get your cash flow going pretty soon.
Yes.
Unless you have a lot of money behind you,
okay.
And I didn't have any loan at that time. I had nothing, but so I was pretty fortunate that the concept was good right off the bat.
Yes.
And it still took some time, to really make the money. But so after about 2 or 3 years at Frankfurt Avenue, I started thinking about expanding, because I was in Northeast Philly.
Yes.
And I found a place in South Philly.
Okay.
And I don't know why exactly at that time, but I knew that you have to either grow or die, the old saying,
Yes. Now, was competition still beginning to notice you now, or you're just growing so fast that the competition didn't mean anything to you at that time?
Yeah, I remember on the first day of Frankfurt Avenue, we had there was like some spies in the building type of thing, like hanging out like at the gates,
Yeah.
So some of my wholesale people were like, what the heck's going on here? Like all these people waiting in line and, so yeah, they started copying a little bit and opening up their own outlet. I remember Kaufman Wholesale, but that would definitely get me my juices going.
Got you.
Like always worried about the competition, so it made me better.
Yes.
But then when we opened up South Philly, and again, I was still naive.
Okay.
Like I was not an expert. It wasn't like a family business per se. So I rented a building in South Philadelphia from I forget his name, but and I didn't have heat in the damn building. Like I didn't know how to negotiate really. I had this old warehouse.
Yeah.
And we took it in December.
Okay.
And there was no heat.
Okay.
Now I had to ask the guy, can you, so we had like kerosene heaters going. Back then you were allowed to do that, but the whole place smelled,
Wow.
And, but so it's like, again, you're not going to have perfection. What do they say? Perfection gets in the way of progress.
Yes.
We learned as we went along.
Yes.
But again, I was true to the product. Like,
yes.
We were the king, 30,000 dozen sweatshirts, T-shirts,
yes.
Very simple pricing, like
yes.
$3 for $5, So it was very, very keep it simple, stupid type of thing. We had the right product, this simple pricing. That was just my thing. Okay. Doesn't mean it's right for everybody.
But it was right for you at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time it worked.
So when you go on Undercover Boss, how many stores are you running at that time?
Well, I like the way you go around and segue that, man. So you came full circle. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so at that point, we were up to 40 stores in 10 states.
Wow.
I had stores in Chicago and Detroit. We were also part of like that whole hip hop evolution. Like when I look back at some of those shows that are like on Netflix.
Yes.
And there was a couple publications that mentioned Models. They mentioned Forman Mills.
Okay.
Because that whole 90s thing.
Yes.
Where the merchandise started to change in the stores, and there was a lot of hot items, and we got involved in all that. I was T-shirts and sweats, but then I started getting into like the denim,
yes, and
the rockaware, and like different categories.
Okay.
And that really took off.
Wow. Now,
and we expanded.
Now, when you started getting into rockaware and the whole hip hop industry, How did you make that contact, and are you buying irregulars at that time?
No, but what happened was because I knew about discount,
Yes.
just because of the flea market, because of this outlet,
Yes.
and I understood at the people in the neighborhoods, that needed us,
Yes.
because of the prices. Remember, like Walmart and Target, like Target wasn't around. Walmart was just coming in,
Yes.
but they weren't putting their stores like in the inner city areas. They were going to the suburbs with a lot of parking lots and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. So we had a niche, and all of a sudden I started to discount this stuff. Nobody was a discounter when it came to like Rockaware and Academics and Echo.
Yes.
And like all these names, and even knockoff fashion,
Got
like
you.
the fashion that was still reasonably priced,
Yes.
but it had the right look, rugby shirts and oversized T-shirts and
Yes.
golf shirts, whatever the hot thing was. So we were discounting, and it really worked. It was like, and we had to fight our vendors. They didn't want us to discount.
Okay.
Because Macy's was carrying this stuff, and Dr. J's and City Blues. Everybody hated us.
Wow.
Because we were discounted. You'd walk in our store, it's $10. You walk in Dr. J's, it's like $50.
Yeah. Wow.
Now,
so when you're making these decisions at this time, now you are making those decisions in conjunction with your team now, a team that you've put together.
Yeah, well, that's right. In the beginning, it was just me,
Yes.
and then my first buyer, Hal Lifshitz from Brooklyn, and he was an older guy.
Yes.
And he was like sort of my mentor, because he was a real, what you call a garmento. He was like from Brooklyn.
Yes.
And he grew up in the garment industry, and I hired him as a buyer, and he bought the lady. So we started to expand.
Yes.
From the T-shirts and sweats to the hip hop clothing, and then getting into like ladies clothing. He was like a ladies buyer, so we brought in dresses and
Yes.
jeans, and everything was still at crazy, warehouse prices.
Yes.
No frills. We painted the buildings this ugly yellow color. So like if I was asking a waitress like at breakfast, hey, did you ever hear of Forman Mills? I'm trying to pick her brain.
Yes.
It was like a focus group. She goes, oh yeah, is that big ugly yellow building? And they have great stuff inside,
Yeah.
But so that was sort of like our marketing.
Got you.
The big ugly yellow building, the Forman Mills shout.
Got you.
But yeah, you're right. Now I had to delegate.
Yes.
And now I had to lead other people, and that was a whole other, experience.
Okay.
For me. So
now, Rick, we've got so much to unpack, man, because you are so interesting, man. And I guess you didn't know it. During that time, did you know that you were setting up a majority of your stores in urban areas, in a lot of depressed areas? Did you know that?
No, not really. That's what I mean. Like when my friend's father said Frankfurt Avenue, he had a store on Front Street in Allegheny area. So he just knew that area. He just said, well, there's a lot of people around there,
Yes.
So it was really just a lucky evolution like that. I picked that location.
Okay.
And there wasn't a lot of, again, analysis paralysis. Like if I'm doing that today, I'm looking at demographics and we go 17 times at a location. Sometimes it's good to just make a decision. So I made a decision, and realizing that, wait a second, there's areas all over the country that are like this, that the real estate is really cheap.
Yes.
And there's a lot of like burned out, type of like buildings, and there's tons of people that live in like a 3-mile radius. And they loved us because like, it's almost embarrassing. Like on opening, it would be like, oh my God, we love you. Thank God that you opened up. Like we would create 100, 150 jobs.
Gotcha.
But, I had to say on the side, like, well, obviously we need to make a profit. We need to stay in business.
Yes.
But because we were discounting, it was like a win-win situation.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like they were getting bargains. We were profiting because we have to grow.
Yes.
but it worked.
Wow.
And then like, why would I move to like Detroit? That Detroit was our first market outside of the area.
Yes.
But I was reading in like USA Today at that time, like how depressed Detroit was, and all the economy from the cars and all that. And
yes.
I flew out there to look at the opportunities of what was going on.
Okay.
And we opened up a store on 8 Mile, near where like Eminem grew up.
Yes. Yes.
And Jerome Bettis, I understand that his family was good customers, or I never met him, but he lived around the 8 Mile area.
Okay, so to use this term, when you identify an area and you parachute in the area, what's the first thing you do when you went into Detroit? Did you go to the mayor's office? Did you go to that area that you wanted and start to introduce yourself to people? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we would do that.
Okay.
It was actually more welcoming than Philadelphia, because that was like our hometown,
Got you. Yes.
But when you go to like Cleveland or Detroit and we say, hey, we want to talk to the mayor, we're going to be opening up. And we always, I wouldn't say use the word exaggerate, but we always talk positive in the sense that, hey, we're going to be a big company.
Yes.
There's a lot of like that confidence has to be there.
Gotcha.
Because they're thinking about same thing with your vendors.
Yes.
Because they think about the future, not just what you are today.
Yes.
Gotcha. Let me get in on the ground floor with this guy. So, we would ask, call. We would always get a contact again.
Yes. Sometimes
that was through the churches. Sometimes it was through whatever, our connections from vendors. But they would say, oh, yeah, you call the mayor's office and give them my name.
Yes.
And so then we would get a meeting. A lot of times they would take us around the city.
Yes.
Like showing us the real estate.
Got you. Yes.
And then, and then they would help us. Again, we would get friendly with them, and we were very humble, and we weren't trying to be aggressive or anything.
Yes.
We weren't saying, oh, we'll donate money or we'll do this or that. We were just saying, look, we're going to bring jobs. Here's what we do. And yeah.
And so
and then I picked locations.
Now, when you say you're bringing jobs, that's critical to the conversation, particularly if you're a mayor of a depressed city.
Right. I mean, one thing, we'd always give them credit.
Yes.
Unless they were giving us a hard time or something. But even then, they would come to the ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
And they wanted the public relations for that,
yes.
that they said, hey, we got this new company in here. And they would be at the ribbon cutting, and everybody was happy in the
yes.
neighborhood. It was a great day when we would open those stores up.
Now,
we'd have the local high schools,
Okay. Now, did you
the string band
personally go to every site that you developed?
Yes. Yeah. The
wow.
real estate, I recommend that you have to micromanage your real estate. And by the way, in the very beginning, you have to micromanage.
Yes.
Like if I was writing a book right now, it would be the opposite of Harvard Business School.
Okay.
Or Princeton, I'll say, because you're in the the Jersey area, or Trenton.
Yeah.
Because you can't start to think, oh, I'm going to bring in this, but I'm going to delegate. You got to know the real estate. You got to know the product. So we would visit.
Yes.
And I mean, I have all kinds of stories where I'm telling the manager of like a Modell's that, I'm going to be opening up a flower shop, my brother and I, and, how's the neighborhood, how much at the end of our conversation, the manager's telling me how much volume they're doing. He's showing me their back room. I mean, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find out,
Yes.
I mean, one day I tell her, Mitch Modell walks into Kearney, New Jersey, and I'm in his back room, and he knows me, I'm spying on his store.
What the hell is Rick doing here?
And after that, he would go into my store.
Yes.
And he would send me a text later on with him hugging my manager. And he would say, hi, Ricky. And the manager had no clue that was Mitch,
Got you.
So it was my espionage back then. But,
Yes. Wow.
So, no, you have to be hands-on, and you have to smell it and taste it and touch it.
Yes.
And you got to know that, especially in real estate,
yes,
that location, and you have to feel it. It's like playing an instrument.
Yes.
I always say, like, if you gave me a violin right now, I can't play that thing, you know, and a 7-year-old could play that, you know, if they're taking lessons, right? It's the same. You sort of have to feel it. You could be wrong, because it's okay to be wrong.
Yes.
And then that word pivot, right? Then you have to pivot.
Gotta pivot. I love it. I love it. That word has never made more sense to me than when you shared it with me 3 years, which was 2 years before, 2 years before the pandemic. Wow. So now you're rolling. You've got all these stores. Now, how often are you visiting all your stores?
Pretty often. I mean, I heard that term, management by wandering around. Yes. That's my MBA, but management by wandering around. So you got to show up.
Yes.
It's like they say, just show up. You don't want to, right? Some days you don't want to. And and it got me, because once I get to a store, I would never leave it. My coat comes off, and I'm just too much of a perfectionist, so I'm better off staying away, to be honest with you. But no, you got to get out there. You got to visit. You got to talk to the people. I mean, I would take them out to lunch. I was dead serious, so it wasn't a fake.
Yes.
Because, you could patronize people, but it was real. I wanted to listen to them. Like, we would ask them very serious questions about our customer, about, what are we doing wrong? I always wanted to know the negative first.
Yes.
Because usually nobody wants to tell you the negative.
Very true.
They always want to tell you, like, everything's working out, So now, I would always talk to the customer, and I wanted my people to, too. Like, we would take a bus, and we would put our buyers on it, like a van.
Okay.
And we would go around store to store as a group. And the buyers hated this, but I would put each buyer in a different area of the store on a busy Saturday.
Okay.
And they would have to listen to the customer,
Yeah. Interesting.
Like, we don't like that dress. That dress is ugly or something. The buyer would turn bright red or something, But they have to hear it, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Yes.
So.
Now, so you got the 40 stores. How are you buying now? Is all the merchandise coming into one store and then you disseminate it out, or how's that process working for you?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, somebody once said to me that, hey, Ricky, you're now in the people business. You're not into the schmata business. Schmata means rags or clothing in Yiddish, I think it is, or something. But anyway, meaning, and I understand. So once you get to a certain point, you're no longer in that same business. Now you got other people. You've got, that we're relying on. So same thing with distribution. All of a sudden, I had to think about, we had to have a central warehouse office where, and we got that in Pennsauken, New Jersey.
Yes.
A 200,000 square foot building. We brought all the goods into one location.
Yes.
We had a warehouse manager. We had an allocation manager that would figure out like how it goes to each store. So it'd all be centralized.
Wow.
That's the way we saved on the freight also. And at that time, near the end, I had like 20 buyers, men's, ladies, kids, footwear, home.
Wow. And
they would run around Manhattan. They would fly to different areas of the country and buy merchandise.
Now you're saying you've got buyers. Are the buyers still operating under your philosophy of discount?
Yes. I mean, that's where the vision and the culture has to, you have to all be part of that.
Gotcha.
And you have to make sure that the employees that you do have are really good at that, the culture that you set up.
Yes.
I mean, we were always a flea market mentality.
Got you.
And we had signs that were spelled wrong, like Adidas with 3 Ds. And I said, I would come into the store and I said, oh my God, if an Adidas salesman walks in here right now, we're dead. We're spelling this with 3 Ds or something, or, But that was the charm. We take a magic marker, stack it high and let it fly. And, so it wasn't fancy, but, and if I hired like the wrong buyer that they worked at some fancy company or something like Bloomingdale's or something.
Yeah.
I mean, they were lost,
Wow. So
they were.
You were buying discontinued items. You were buying last year's models. I mean, last year items. Did you do something?
Yeah, anything we can get our hands on that was of value.
Got you.
That had a good value proposition. It could be last year's goods. It could be Slate Irregular.
Okay.
It could be, just a deal.
Okay.
Where we work close on something. Our margins on some things would be very like a loss leader.
Got you. And so now you're
like
buying.
Sam Walton understood that,
Yes.
So
because now you're buying like the whole truckload, right?
Well, the concept I have today is different. The new business that I started, but back then most of it was fairly normal merchandise. I mean, it was closeouts and Slate Irregulars, but if you have a lot of contacts and you pay your bills on time,
yes,
and there's always going to be a deal out there.
Got you.
And some days the deals are there, and some days they don't even want to talk to me. Like if I would go to a trade show, half the time they told me to put my card away.
Okay.
Or my because they didn't want me. Boscov's was there, or Modell's, or Macy's was there, and they didn't want me to be in the same company as them. You know what I mean?
Here comes
like I'm the Undertaker.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Here comes the Undertaker.
Yeah.
So, but that's what we establish on the buying end.
Yes. So you're running how long did you run Forman Mills?
So, man, I'm telling you, time goes by fast. When your mentors or your family tells you that life is short, it's unbelievable.
Okay.
I was the kid, I was always the kid back then. Like, you own this company now, now I'm 60 years old, and so I did it for 30 years, over 30 years.
Okay.
And the business is still there.
Okay. Because I saw somewhere that you sold to an equity firm.
Yeah. I mean, after a certain amount of time, I still love the business.
Yes.
But somebody, we started networking with like bankers and things like that. And somebody said, look, you should really look, you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Yes.
You have kids, you're going to have grandkids at some point.
Yes.
Maybe you should think about, selling part of the company.
Got you.
So I hired an investment banker out in New York that, again, somebody recommended. I always get recommendations, always interview them.
Yes.
And I picked the company out of there, and just to really kick the tires to see what would come out of it.
Okay.
And there was people interested at that time. It was the right timing.
But was that part of your exit strategy, or you had no exit strategy at that time?
I really didn't have an exit strategy until, again, when you're networking, you're talking to accountants and lawyers, and you're reading and you're educating. I realized that is a possible exit strategy.
Okay.
Because at what point, how far can I go with this company,
And even though this was like your baby, something that you had birthed, was that hard for you to let go? Was it hard for you to say, I'll heed their advice?
Yeah, in the beginning, I was real naive, dealing with Wall Street.
Yes.
Where, they're going to give me money, and they're going to let Rick Foreman run the company, and I'm going to have all this money behind me without any risk. And so they're smart. I mean, they're shrewd. So, like, I remember one night we were in New York at a really nice steakhouse, and I'm thinking about selling like a minority of the business.
Yes.
Not the majority. So, they'll invest. But then the guy, after a couple drinks, the guy whispers in my ear, well, that we want governance of the board,
Yes.
So, like, I learned that it doesn't matter. Somebody could have 20% of your company.
Yes.
But if they get governance of the board,
yes,
and you start to go south a little bit, they can easily take over.
Yeah.
So I decided at that point that either I'm going to sell the majority and get the most out of it, or I'm not going to sell at all.
Got you.
So you learn as you go through it,
Okay.
So
you enter into this equity deal. The deal goes down. And then, Rick, you are on the sideline for a few years, and you come back. And so what are you doing now, Rick?
So, I sold it 5 years ago. Yes. I had a non-compete with the company.
Okay.
Not that they even cared. They never called me one time, So I was kind of insulted by that, but then my lawyer said, that's the greatest thing in the world that they're not bothering you.
Yeah.
They don't care, So during the 5 years, I did all kind. I started thinking about investing in some young, some businesses out there and angel investing, and I did a couple deals out there. Okay. There's a couple that I missed on. I should have invested, like GoPuff and some of these other businesses. But it was very interesting meeting a lot of the young people out of the colleges,
Yes.
and also working with your company, Kevin. Meeting some of the young people that were, ready to do some major things.
Absolutely.
They may have been 16 and listening, and then somebody told me I really couldn't find myself. You know what I mean? I knew that the entrepreneur never left me.
Yes.
But after a little bit of golf and a little bit of this and that, somebody said, you got to see this company down in Georgia and Alabama.
Okay.
So I've never been to Alabama in my life. I don't know, but and it's called, I forget, it was called Crazy Casboys or Give Me a Five is another one.
Yes.
And it was this company. So when I flew down to Georgia and with a friend, and we drove into the 3 states to these different retailers. And I went to one. I was like 300th in line at 8:00 in the morning.
Wow.
On a shitty January. It was cold out and what they did was they were buying Amazon and Target trailers, putting them out at $5, and every day the price would go down.
Okay.
It went from $5 to $4 to $1 to 25 cents in 1 week, in a 4-day period.
Wow.
And I thought that was like brilliant. I looked at that and said, "Oh my God, this is it."
Yeah.
It was an algebraic equation in my mind, like whether it's brand new goods or it's closeouts. How can this work where the demand is there?
Yeah. Wow.
So I brought that back to Philadelphia. I called it Turn 7.
Yes.
I don't know. I came up with that name. I just said, well, we're going to turn the goods in 7 days.
I love it. Yes.
The average company in America turns their goods like 5 or 6 times a year.
Yes.
Like a company like Ross or TJ's, Ross turns their goods like 15 times a year, which is like record breaking.
Got you.
So I said, we're going to do this in 1 week. Now, I'm not sure if we're doing it that fast, but that's the goal,
Wow.
So
when you say turn 7,
so that's a disruption.
That means you're bringing in inventory from various seasons. Share more about that. I want to understand more. I want to understand that a little better.
Yeah, we don't always have control, but there's a big problem in America now with all these returns,
Okay.
Also, a lot of the goods go to landfills. So we're actually helping out in that respect. Like if you look up like all the goods at Amazon,
Wait, Rick,
they want to bury the goods.
Stop.
They don't want their competitors to get it.
Stop, Rick. You mean truckloads of unwanted return goods are just going to the landfill?
Yeah, not all of them, of course, but like the excess, they're just getting rid of it, because they don't want it. They don't want it on the market.
Wow. That's crazy.
So we come along, and other companies come along, and so we're contracted like to buy from different sources.
Yes.
We also have our connections from the import companies and from other companies. So, and we're not doing that exact thing where I started off that way, where we went from $5 down to $1, but we sold out so fast. Like when I advertised that I didn't have to lower the price. I just kept it at $5 in the beginning.
Yes.
And then I got some big locations. Like we took a Lord & Taylor. We took an old JCPenney outlet store in Philly.
Yes.
And so we're also filling up real estate that is needed. Like these are at the malls.
Yes.
Which I never thought I would be a mall merchant. But
got you. Wow.
So there's a real estate play there too.
Wow. Turn 7. I love that, man. I love that. My man, Rick. So.
Oh man, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? I don't.
You.
So just, every day I change my mind. Like, do I want to, get the hell out of this, or do I want to expand it?
Well, it
like,
is.
Why am I doing this?
It is in your blood, And entrepreneurs never retire. They just look for the next opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Oh my!
And it doesn't have to be the money or anything. It's not the money. It's just like it's like a sickness. It's like you're addicted to creating.
Yes.
I love creating, and and I like to help others out with that. So and so do you. So
absolutely.
That's exciting.
Absolutely. But I want to ask some. I mean, all my questions have been serious, but I want to ask some real serious questions now.
Okay.
What is a challenge for a young person in the urban area that he or she has to overcome?
Well, I don't know if it's just urban areas. It depends. Like, you mean if they come from the urban areas too?
Yes.
Or if it's disadvantage or it's this or that. Yeah. I mean, I think the knowledge of that, I think the exposure, like you and I talked about that with the nonprofits.
Yes.
And you did a great job with it. Like, you took a bus, buses to New York to the wholesale district.
Yes.
So I think exposure to what you and I know, or any business that it's out there.
Yes.
So like the kids on the street and anywhere, not just the street, but anywhere, like they have to know that it's out there, that there's businesses out there, that there's wholesale areas, that there's, different things going on, so that if they can travel,
yes,
even to New York or to Philadelphia or to whatever,
yes,
and really experience things.
And so how do you encourage a young person to dream? How would you encourage a young person or an adult to dream, Rick? How would you encourage that?
Well, I think like we do, get out there. Like tonight I'm speaking at something, and I'm involved, but I think we just have to tell them,
yes,
and they like the stories of like not having the money and having all the things in all the roadblocks,
Yes.
So we all have the roadblocks, and I think the perseverance part of it, like you have to feel the concept first. Like whatever you're doing, I would tell them, whatever you enjoy doing,
yes,
think if there's something that you're always thinking, is there a way to do this better?
Yes.
Because that's the first step before you even like have to go try to find the money or the location. You have to feel some type of concept or some type of product or some type of service.
Got you.
And then, then you can evolve with that, but I think we have to expose them to different situations out there.
Got you.
And they have to then get the idea that we have to open up the mind to change, to pivot, to, can they make something better?
Yes.
And that it is attainable.
Yes.
Like, don't let the negatives get in the way. Get that concept first.
Yes.
With no money,
Yeah. Now, would you?
But I can't claim that it's not a challenge,
Understood. Would you think that entrepreneurship would be the great equalizer?
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, there's like entrepreneurship lately has taken controversy, right? Like they say, like, the capitalists, and I mean, that's what made this country great.
Yes.
And granted, everybody has to have that exposure, that opportunity to do that if they want to, right? I mean, not everybody wants to do that, but or to go out on their own or whatever it is. So I think that's number one, again, that they have to, but it is on them too. Like I always said that if you get a job, even if you're working at McDonald's, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Then exploit that. Like if you think that you can make French fries better,
yes,
or you can get hand cut French fries with lemonade, or so you have to put yourself out there.
Yes,
you got to realize that sometimes you do have to start at the bottom, or you do have to volunteer.
Yes,
so you got to get out there and hustle. Either way to get exposed to that.
Yes,
that and then if something can click.
Got you.
If something, but it is lonely. I mean, you do have to have that perseverance. But it's a catch-22, right? They have that. You want people to have the mentors out there too.
Yes.
So it's a fine line between the two. We have to give them both.
Yes. Now,
the teachers, the mentors, the great people.
Yeah.
There's always an angel out there. There's always, if you keep plugging away, you're going to find one angel that's there on purpose or something. I don't know. I've always found that.
But that's because you're persevering, right? When you are about to quit, through your continuous perseverance, there's that angel that says, I want to help you to the next level.
Yes, they're out there.
Yes.
I mean, I had two Bernies. I had Bernie the tail man next to me at Columbus.
Okay.
And he got us my spot. Like, he said to me, hey, Richie and Ronnie, this person hasn't been here for 3 weeks. Maybe their table's available. So that was like 5th Avenue and 42nd Street. Like that was like the greatest location. Yeah. Unfortunately, the person was sick or something and did not come back to that great location, and we ended up getting it.
Okay.
So I don't forget these people.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have to get yourself out there.
Yes.
And I can't speak for everybody, but I know that if they're very humble and they're aggressive, though,
yes, and
they ask a lot of questions like, hey, I really want to get ahead. I want to pick your brain.
Yes.
So I would say to some of the young people, make that phone call. Like, don't be scared to call Kevin Wortham up. Don't be scared to call Ricky Foreman up.
Yeah.
Make that phone call. Call the mayor. Call the,
Yeah. And
you're going to get help. We want to help. Believe me, most people are good out there.
Yeah. And want to see you do good. Yes.
They really do.
Yes.
They really do. I mean, there's people that are a pain in the ass. They're moody that day. There's some people that are not good people. I mean, but you're going to find, like, if you keep pushing, you're going to find your angel out there.
Yes. Yeah. Now,
but if you lay back, we all get the negatives in our head. Mm-hmm. I get that to this day. I always say, like, I'm just like you guys. Like, I put all these names I got to call, and I procrastinate, and I call the easy ones up, you know.
Yeah.
And they're like shocked, like, Mr. Foreman, like, you get nervous about that? Like, you don't want to make that phone call either? Like, it's like, it's true though, you know.
Yeah. Now I want to ask this question, Rick. So I think we're slowly but surely coming out of this pandemic. As you watch the news or read the media, you're seeing a number of African-American men and women start entrepreneurial businesses. Did you see that coming, that this pandemic was going to try to equalize the playing field? Did you see that the pandemic was going to do that?
Well, not really just because of the pandemic or anything, but I think prior to that, there's a lot of, that's been happening for a long time, like in the sense of, like Damon with FUBU, because we used to buy from him and stuff, but like where a lot of people in the apparel business, like they would be the designers, and they would start opening all the stores in Lower Manhattan, and so I think this is really coming back, and I would say yes. I think this is a perfect time. It's like the hustle economy, they call it, I guess.
Yes.
In general, I'm hearing this term that's why I thought the flea markets and stuff. I think it is going to be the equalizer. I think that people, some of this like uprising in a sense, or like what we've seen over the last 3 years.
Yes.
There is a positive sense in that people are rejecting even the $15 an hour. I hate to say it, but like, it's not just the money, but it's also maybe the millennials are teaching us something too about the lifestyle.
Yes.
Because we're a little bit jealous of them. We're saying, oh my God, like we work so hard and it takes 30 years to do this,
Yeah.
And they're disrupting this.
Yes.
But maybe this backlash of saying that, you know what, we're not going to put up with this anymore, that we're not just going to work for 10. Now, as long as everybody gets away with it in the sense that they can, as long as we can make a living.
Yes.
But I do have a positive thing coming out of it. I think people want to take a risk now, and they want to have control over their own, their whatever the word is, their own lot, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a ton of that right now. And yes, that's coming from the inner city. That's coming from all over, but so I think there's a dynamic thing happening right now.
Wow. I am having the most exciting time of my life because just to piggyback on that, right? Since we've started the Entrepreneur Enclave, I have seen the uptick of men and women start businesses for that same reason, that they thought for those 2 years that they were sitting idly by, they knew that there was something else they wanted to do that was going to enhance their life, not just work, but just bring out more of their passion. So I do see that, right? But I also see on the forefront, there's this whole equalization of what has been done to black and brown folks. I just saw in the newspaper today that Notre Dame, the elite, the elite University of Notre Dame, the football, they are going to put on a football game versus Tennessee State, right? So two great football behemoths are going to go against each other, right? Who would have thought that, right? And I think this is a result of the pandemic. This is a result of equalization. This is a result of exposure, right? We just saw a week ago, well, not a week, maybe a week and a half ago, that before the Final Four, CBS broadcasted the first ever HBCU All-Star game. We would have never thought that, right? So I think that the pandemic, in terms of black and brown minorities having more exposure, that has done all of that for us. So these are exciting times. These are truly exciting times.
Yeah, you know what? I'm getting like a shiver. Like, you know, you get that brain pop. Like, you're right. Like, and I'm not saying this to like, I think that we have an obligation. So it's like, so for instance, like my friend Jeff Brown, he's another guy you should talk to, but he's the guy who runs the ShopRites in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And he's going to run for mayor of Philadelphia. Okay.
Is that public knowledge? Well, obviously public knowledge now.
Oh yeah, I got to watch what I say. I think it's public knowledge. I'll check, and you may have to edit this if not. But he's a great man in Philadelphia. But he has all the ShopRites, and he went into the inner city and all. Yes. But like, he put his money where his mouth is. Okay, where he gives up some of his real estate.
Yes. For
the local people that have like little businesses that are a little bit established, like they have like a peanut butter business, or they have like a soda, and he set up like a shop for the local vendors within his ShopRites.
Wow. Okay.
Now that's where the yin and the yang has to come from.
Yes.
Because it's like it's a dilemma, right? Like, how do we really do this, and government money, and the people. But I think that we do have an obligation to that, and we have to get even stronger with that.
Yes.
And so it has to come from both sides.
Understood.
There's got to be great programs there, great opportunities.
Yes. And
then we have to work on the young people and the people in general, that they have to persevere. They have to come up with it, But I can't judge if their situation is different than mine or not, because maybe to get into the door or this or that, that's something that's hard to measure.
Yes. Well,
but we have an obligation, though.
You and I have had that conversation many a times.
Yeah. I mean, we have to talk. You know what I mean? Like, that's why even in these podcasts, like, it's like getting people together and like debating all that, and
Yes.
and just having old fashioned conversation,
That's why I love you so much, Rick, because you and I have gotten to know each other. I remember, and I can edit out if it's not, when I came down to meet you at your summer home, and we were talking about race. We were talking about racism, and you were saying that you never had to face it until you were moving down to your summer home, where people were discriminating against you. And I was sharing with them that as a black man, they see me coming a mile away, and they're already setting up their biases. So I remember in those days having those conversations with you. So, yeah.
And I always tell that story, too. Like, I could never understand that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I do understand it, but I can never understand it like you understand it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, if that affects you,
yes,
let's say, then it affects you. There's nobody to argue that,
yes. Yes.
It is what it is. So yeah, we have to take care of that. Like, we have to figure that out. And then, it's one of those ongoing things, right?
Yes.
But I think that exposure, I think that if everybody has that opportunity to go out there and know that they can be successful and be exposed to things and take a risk.
Yes.
And then the second part of that, to get in the door, to get the right opportunity.
Yes.
The right, whatever the programs are, the educations are,
And that's
you have to keep getting better.
And that's where the mentoring comes from. Someone that has credibility that can say, hey, listen, I'm vouching for you. Call this guy. He can help you, or she can help you. So I agree. I agree. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm optimistic about that. I really am.
Oh, I am too.
I really think that most people want success.
Yes.
You have a few crazies out there, whatever, but I really believe that, and that loneliness I was reading about, like when I mentioned about Elon Musk, what he said,
yes,
that's really true though. Because in the beginning, nobody is going to believe in you anyway, and they're too busy believing in what they believe in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your mentees, sometimes you try to talk them out of something.
Yes.
Forget about that. If they have a certain game plan, they'll stick with it. You know.
Yeah.
So, and that's okay. That's their thing. But anyway, yeah, we got to keep plugging. We got to keep getting better and making it happen. And then I think there's optimism there. Yeah. Well, I think there's great change coming,
yes. I mean, these are exciting times, and I am so excited. Like, so for me, I wake up every morning and I'm on my scratch pack. Who do I want to interview? And I'm calling people just like you. And some folks know me, some folks don't, and I'm asking them, would they mind being on the Entrepreneur Enclave podcast? And they're all saying yes. I said, because this is a platform for them to tell their unabridged story, and we're hoping that the story that they tell, they share, will encourage, inspire someone else to be their very best entrepreneur that they can be. So I am so grateful to you, Rick.
Yeah, well, that's how you're going to reach a lot of people. So
yes.
I listen to these podcasts, all the time, you know.
And so you and I, I'm going to get you to come on board to do some co-hosting with me, Rick. I already told you that.
Yeah, we'll try it. Well, it'd be fun. Yeah. So we'll try it one time and see what happens, you know.
One other question, right? When you had Forman Mills, you had that crazy saying, Forman Mills. Now, for your new venture, do you have a crazy saying? Turn 7? Do you have a
Well, I brought back, there's an advertising guy that I use, like, just a local guy who came up with the voice.
Okay.
And that's a whole story in itself, but the shout. And so I said, Eric, we got to come in. So he was doing like turn 7,
Okay.
But we haven't got it down.
Gotcha.
It has to happen organically, I guess. You can't always force it,
Very true. Yes,
so we'll see.
All right.
We'll try. We should have, with your listeners, if they want to, email us about, like, if they come up with a jingle or an idea, we'll listen,
Absolutely.
We can have a contest.
Absolutely. And that's how we're going to put up. Come up with a new jingle for Rick's business, new business. That'd be cool.
Yeah, the new saying, turn 7. What would that be?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, am I eligible to participate too, Rick?
Sure. if you create something that's iconic like that, we'll take all comers.
Absolutely. So I am so excited that you have graced the platform with your presence. I'm so excited that you've got this new venture going on. That'll keep your mind busy, because I know your mind is always running.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with this,
absolutely. So, Rick, anything else you want to share for our listening audience?
No, just keep plugging, and there's don't have 2 bad days in a row. If you have a bad day, when you wake up tomorrow, you'll be ready to run, ready to go.
Absolutely. So, Rick, it is always a pleasure to have you on the platform. You're always welcome, and let's you and I talk and text and stay connected, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll be seeing each other. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That concludes another episode of the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please
call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.